Yo. All right. I'm not doing another one of these little test things. All right. This is going to be the deal, and you guys are going to enjoy it, and it's going to be great because it's from the heart. All right. Hey, everyone. This is Paul C. Torino, nutritional therapist and life coach out of Las Vegas. You guys know who I am, but I got to do that because we repurpose this in other places. But here to talk about today, colds, flus, immune system, what to do for prevention, and then also what to do once you get sick. The prevention piece of this might not be mind-blowing, but it's really good to address, some of these things that are really important. But then once you get sick, if you catch it at the very beginning, I do have a couple of silver bullets, which I think are just going to, because it blew my mind, and I've used it over the past couple of days, and it absolutely works. And I just want to start out by saying this is all from the heart. We have this kind of renewed focus on supporting our people and supporting the people that we've worked with and that have been through the progression. And because we know, when we work with people or when people go through the SHT, like they have a life-changing experience, there's a handful of people that come out and become diehards and are just fully committed to all our foundational principles. And I know we all want that, but I also understand that it's difficult to keep that stuff going, and it's a lot of information, and so we're committed to supporting you, like we really are. We're trying to come up with topics such as these little videos, and we've got some additional things I'll talk about at the end of the video, but I just want you guys to know that you're on my mind and on my heart on a daily basis, and I truly believe that if we can support you guys that have been through this stuff and been with us and that are already committed to our foundations, that the growth, the Empower the Planet piece of this is just going to happen naturally, because you're going to be the examples that you are, and you're going to spread the message, and it's just going to be a really synergistic thing. So I just want you guys to know that you're on our hearts and minds every single day when we get up. So, all right, so today we're going to talk about colds, flus, sicknesses, and prevention, and then what to do when they get sick. And the prevention piece might not be like surprising, but it's good to go through this information. But I promise you, this thing to do when you get sick is going to be a mind blower. All right, so as I don't know if this is a review. Maybe some of you have been through our cold and immune system talks in the past. So just to talk about our lines of defense that the body has going for us, because this plays well and segues well into what we're going to talk about with prevention. So we have what we call non-specific resistance barriers, and these are things that our body has in place all the time that keeps pathogens out and protects us. All right, so things like our skin, our sweat, and our mucus, and other excretions or secretions that we have. These are designed to keep things out and to push things out. So like my tears and my mucus and my saliva, although they serve other functions, one of the main functions they have is our immune system, because inside the tears, mucus, and saliva, we have things that neutralize pathogens. There's an acidic component to it, and then there's also different enzymes that break down proteins. So it's just being who you are, supplying yourself with our foundational protocols and our nutrients and our hydration and things supports these non-resistance barriers. And you'll also notice typically, when we get sick, another really strong resistance barrier that we have is our natural gastric juices. So if we have really strong digestion, if we end up ingesting some pathogens, then typically if we have strong digestion, we're going to end up digesting those pathogens before they can do any harm to us. So that's just a really quick review of our non-specific resistance barriers. And then we also, have ways that we get rid of pathogens. So we notice this when we start to get sick. The reason that we sneeze and we cough, and maybe we have runny eyes and runny noses and things, is because we're trying to get rid of those pathogens. And so our body understands that we've come into contact with something that's not optimal, and it's trying to push that stuff out. Now we have what we call the innate immune system, which is also non-specific. It's not like part of the memory-based immune system, but you can think of it as like patrol cars that are always going through our system. So this includes things like natural killer cells, also known as lymphocytes, and then also phagocytes, which are designed to kind of go through the body and ingest like harmful decaying matter and dying cells and things like that. Inflammation is part of our innate immune system. It's non-specific, but when we have a pathogen, a lot of times we'll have a fever or we'll have a localized inflammation response. And so that increase in temperature and the sending of all these different natural killer cells to that area helps us combat whatever pathogen it is. And then inflammation in the form of fever actually raises our temperature, and that slight raise in temperature is designed to kill some pathogens. And then we have our adaptive acquired immunity, which is a memory-based system. This is where we build up antibodies for future attacks. So a lot of times, we think about the flu virus and different strains of it. So if I have a flu from last year and I build up an immunity to it, then that means that if I encounter that exact same flu virus in the future, I shouldn't have a problem with it. I may have just a slight bump in symptoms, but then my body's adaptive or acquired immunity, my memory response, should be able to take care of that. The problem is, but all these different viruses and pathogens are constantly evolving and changing, which is why we continue to get sick, because the flu that we got last year is not going to be the same as the flu that we got this year, and that's also a big reason that a lot of flu vaccines don't have a lot of efficacy. So the lymph system is something that's really important to understand. The lymph system kind of mirrors our circulatory system, and you can think of it as like the off-ramp on a highway. It doesn't have the heart to pump the blood through the system, so it depends on nearby movement of muscles and organs and maybe just exercise to keep it moving. So something really good to keep in mind is it's good to massage the body, especially during times of sickness or you're trying to boost your immunity. Maybe dry brushing, foam rolling is great. Just exercising, working out, and walking is going to be really good for your immune system. The super high intense stuff could suppress your immune system a little bit, but just movement in general is going to help move the lymph system, which is really, really great. Now, when it comes to prevention, I think a lot of people falsely believe that if I get sick, that means that there's something wrong with me, that if I have a really strong immune system, I shouldn't get sick, and that's not true. If you have an all-out immune response to something, meaning that you have a really intense period of sickness, but it's brief, then that's a clear indication that your body has the capacity to actually react to a pathogen. Now, the people that need to be really careful are the people that are chronically sick all the time. They have this low-level, sinus infection or some kind of upper respiratory infection, or a low-level just feeling crappy all the time. It's almost like you're trying to get sick or almost getting sick, but you're not quite getting fully sick. Those are the people that it's kind of clear that their immune system is not super strong, so it doesn't have this capacity to have an all-out reaction. So if you have a really all-out reaction, and it only happens once or twice a year, you're on the right path. Like, you're doing really, really good. So from a prevention standpoint, let's just make sure that we understand nutrient-dense, toxin-free food, and then structuring your meals according to the ideal day's meals is going to be your number one defense. It's going to be the number one thing to boost your immune system, because your immune system is nutrient dependent, just like everything in our body. And those nutrients and that system is inhibited by toxins. So being committed to the 5 food groups, and then also structuring your meals in a way that maximizes self-sufficiency and fat burning, has been shown in the literature to be extremely enhancing for the immune system. So if you've ever had a reason to be super strict with the 5 food groups and ideal days meals, I would say cold and flu season would be it, because most of us should notice that the more we're committed to real food and the more that we commit to that structuring the meals properly, that we should see less sickness and less often and less duration, right? And I think that's true for most of us. But the more strict you are with it, I think the less you're going to see of yourself getting sick. The second most important thing that you can do from a prevention standpoint is get adequate sleep. And I know that that's something that's like really difficult for a lot of us because of work schedules and families and kids and things. But again, if you're looking to minimize your exposure to being sick and having days off of work, I'd say making sleep a priority has got to be absolutely crucial. And we should all understand what those 2 things are that we need to do to enhance sleep. And that would be getting sun exposure every day or bright light exposure every day, and then making sure in the evening that you're minimizing stimulus and you're turning all your stuff off by the time you get in bed. If you have problems with sleep, come see me. Make an appointment with me and let's talk about it, because if you don't have that under control and you got all the food and everything else, then you're fighting a losing battle. Now, when it comes to prevention also, so we have these non-specific resistance barriers like our skin and stuff, right? It's designed to keep stuff out. And I think to go around washing your hands all day, every day, hand sanitizing and that kind of thing, it's not very healthy, because you're actually destroying the microbiome of your skin and the beneficial bacteria and the beneficial organisms that we have that work synergistically with us and symbiotically with us to help us keep those pathogens away or to neutralize them. So I'm not saying that washing your hands isn't a good thing. Washing your hands periodically is going to be a great thing, but you have to understand that everything is everywhere. So if there's a virus floating around I mean, anywhere, but let's just take the gym for example. If I wash my hands and I go into the gym, maybe my hands are clean, but by the time I start crawling around on the floor with my hands and feet and touching things, like it's, I've got it back on me again. What's crucial is maybe washing your hands periodically for sure, but making sure that you minimize how often you touch your face and your eyes and your nose and your mouth, because that is where the virus is going to gain entry into our system, and that's typically where the virus replicates the most, is the back of the throat and up in the nasal passage. All right, so washing your hands, great, but what's more important is making sure that when you go to touch your eyes or your nose or your mouth, that's when you wash your hands. It's just before that, because you're never going to stay completely clean and be able to completely avoid these different pathogens. And then also minimizing stress. Like I'll notice I usually get sick after a night of being up late or going through some really, really intense workouts or something along those lines, because that added stress may be just enough to knock the immune system down and make it a little bit vulnerable. So minimizing stress to the degree that you can. And then we have essential oils. Okay, so as a maintenance preventative thing, I always recommend doTERRA's On Guard, and then also frankincense, which have both been proven in the literature, the blend of On Guard and then frankincense in general, to be extremely immune boosting and great for cellular function. And then there's a couple others that we'd recommend throwing in the mix once you get sick. For supplements, we recommend taking a daily multi and some fermented cod liver oil. So we do sell cod liver oil out of our office, but then also we have some recommendations on some Amazon links that you can actually go and get some on your own if you don't live close to here. Vitamin C has had some mixed reviews in the literature, but I think it's just so inexpensive, it's worth taking. We have a great product here. It's this ultra fine, super concentrated stuff. Understand, if I get a whole lemon and I eat a whole lemon, I'm getting about 50 milligrams of vitamin C. 1/4 teaspoon of this gives you 1 gram or 1,000 milligrams of vitamin C, which is an ultra concentrated dose. We'd recommend taking about 2 grams of vitamin C as a maintenance preventative thing. And so most mornings I'll take 2/4 teaspoons or a half a teaspoon, and that gives me 2 full grams of vitamin C. And then we always recommend mineralized hydration and making sure that you have really strong digestion. Now, if you eat real food and you structure your eating appropriately, then digestion should take care of itself. But you can always, first thing in the morning, have a little bit of apple cider vinegar with a squeeze of lemon, and that should get your hydrochloric acid production started pretty quickly. All right, so those are our foundational things for prevention. Now let's talk about once you get sick. All right. First of all, at the first sign of feeling like you're getting sick, you got to back off of everything. I know that a lot of them, my people are CrossFitters and just avid, fitness enthusiasts, and and I fall into the same category. Like I hate taking days off. I feel like I'm missing something, I'm losing something, or something along those lines, even though I know it's not true. But you have to rest. Like as soon as you feel the sickness coming on, you got to take off. You got to take off of working out. You got to start focusing on resting, because that's going to be the greatest thing that you can do for your sickness. And like I mentioned before, if you'll ever notice, like usually the nights that you stay up late or you go out partying and drinking really hard, it's that next day that you start to get sick because you suppressed your immune system. I would recommend continuing with everything mentioned before. And then here is the big kicker, okay? So, and I got this information from a guy that I've followed for years. His name is Chris Masterjohn. He's a PhD in nutritional sciences. He's just awesome, great with lipid biology and cholesterol, and has been one of my go-to sources for a lot of things that I've learned as far as cholesterol goes. But he's also kind of like a biohacker, and so he's always out there experimenting with things and also cross-referencing the scientific literature to see what works and what doesn't work. All right, so zinc is important to our immune system, but the zinc that I'm talking about today is not the zinc that we're looking to ingest and get into our cellular system, and that's very important for the immune system. So if you're deficient in zinc in some way, if you think you are, the best sources of zinc from a food perspective are going to be oysters, just beef in general, and then a lot of cheeses have concentrated amounts of zinc. But what we're talking about here is there's a bunch of research around this. When taking zinc, an oral zinc lozenge, and if you do it at the right time from the right source, then it can reduce the median cold and flu duration by 5 to 7 days, and we've seen this in the literature over and over and over again. Reducing the duration of the cold or flu by 5 or 7 days means for most of us not having any symptoms whatsoever. All right, so that pretty much means that it's a silver bullet if you catch it at the right time. So ionic zinc has effects on the nasal and throat tissues, which are the two major sites of infection for colds and flus, and where most of these viruses do most of their replication. And so a zinc lozenge, the right type of zinc lozenge, actually prohibits and inhibits the replication of that flu virus at the back of the throat and in the nasal passage. And that's exactly what we're looking for. So in order for this to work, you have to take this zinc lozenge at the very first sign of symptoms. And that means that you're trying to inhibit the replication of that virus. Now understand the incubation for a flu or cold virus is about a day, meaning that when I get that cold or flu virus, then there's about a day that I'm not going to experience any symptoms whatsoever because that flu virus is starting to replicate itself. All right, so within 2 or 3 days, you start to see replication peaked out, and then you also start to see symptoms peak out, right? After 2 or 3 days, the replication of the virus has stopped, but you're going to notice that your symptoms continue for another 1 to 5 to 7 days or something along those lines. So just because you have symptoms of being sick doesn't mean that you still have the virus, right? Typically that virus replication process is within the first 2 or 3 days. You're also very contagious, but after that first 2 or 3 days, if you don't catch it then, it's pretty much a moot point. If you've had this cold or flu for 5 days and you start to use these zinc lozenges, it's probably going to have little to no impact whatsoever. So you have to take it right away at the onset, and you have to be consistent with it because you want constant exposure to these tissues. So when I take a zinc lozenge and it takes me 20 or 30 minutes for it to dissolve, I'm having that exposure to those nasal and throat tissues for an extended period of time. And if I can do that every 1 or 2 hours until my symptoms go away, which for most people is going to be about a day or two, then I've inhibited the replication of the flu virus, and that's all there is to it. So I think the zinc lozenge is the silver bullet that we've been looking for, and the key is having this stuff on hand. Now I have it, and there's only one brand that's recommended, all right, and it's this Life Extensions Enhanced Zinc Lozenge. And I have 4 bottles of it here. I'd gladly sell it to anyone. And if you have something come down, or we can just divvy out the amount of lozenges that you need for 1 or 2 days. And I'm telling you right now, like, that is the silver bullet in addition to some of these other things that we're going to cover here in just a moment. Second thing is, with the vitamin C, I would definitely keep up that 2 grams per day, but I would consider doing 5-gram mega doses 2 or 3 times a day. So 5 grams, according to this powder, is going to be 5 quarter teaspoons, which is about, it's about a half a tablespoon or something like that. So you do that 2 or 3 times a day, and it's giving a really, really big immune boost, or boost to your immune system. Also, I'm sure most of you have probably heard of the nutrient called glutathione. So glutathione plays a lot of different roles inside the body, and immune cells are going to take it up and use it as they begin to multiply during an illness. So when I have a cold or a flu virus, the cold or flu virus is replicating, but then my immune cells are also replicating to try to combat that pathogen. So glutathione plays a crucial role in this, and especially if you have upper respiratory symptoms and congestion and infection and things like that, it's going to be extremely beneficial. Now, real food typically gives us what we need from a glutathione perspective, especially if you're eating stuff like Bobar, because sulfur is one of the precursors to glutathione production inside the body. But I think it would be beneficial to have on hand some glutathione, and there's a specific brand that we recommend, and you can start taking that at the onset of a cold or flu type symptoms in addition to the zinc lozenge, and you're going to notice an immediate benefit in your upper respiratory function. For throat symptoms, there's a lot of different throat lozenges out there, but there's one that's been highly recommended by this guy, Chris Masterjohn, and it's called the Gaia Throat Shield, and made with non-toxic ingredients. Got a little bit of sugar in it, so just maybe be careful about overdosing on it throughout the day. And then also, when it comes to essential oils, we'd recommend continuing with the On Guard and the frankincense, but then upgrading to what we call the F-bomb. And no, it's not that kind of F-bomb. It's called the Flu Bomb, all right? So the Flu Bomb is On Guard, frankincense, lemon, oregano, and then also tea tree oil or melaleuca. All right, now you can take all those in a veggie capsule couple times a day. I'd say first thing in the morning and right before you go to bed. And they all have their own unique properties and benefits. Oregano in particular is just extremely antiviral, antibacterial, and it gets into our system because it's lipid-based. The reason we don't recommend that as a prevention is because it's so strong that it can wipe out some of the good beneficial bacteria in our system, but it's good for acute uses. So when you get sick, I would definitely recommend upgrading to this F-bomb. I love that name, by the way. And then we'll have some links and some instructions on how to do this. Something else that I think most people find extremely beneficial is doTERRA's Breathe. So the Breathe is their respiratory blend, and it's like a natural Vicks vapor rub or something like that. You can put it on your chest and diffuse it, and it's amazing for upper respiratory issues. From a nutrient standpoint, remember that if you get sick, the focus for your body needs to be healing. So I would try to refrain from eating digestive heavy foods like a lot of meats and things. I would probably just consume bone stock, maybe with an egg yolk here or there, because bone stock is going to be extremely easy to digest, doesn't require much digestive effort at all. So does egg yolks, but yet they're giving you some nourishment for the system, and they help you heal your digestive system. I would say fasting. Most people, when they get sick, don't feel like eating, and that's your body's indication that it's trying to heal. So trying to fast is going to be beneficial, and then drinking a little bit of bone stock here and there until you get through your main symptoms. And I think that about covers it when getting sick. I mean, that's a really good kind of overview, nutshell. I'm going to have a post that has a list of all these different references and links to get things. You need to have some of these things on hand, because as soon as it hits you, that's the time that you need to strike. And if you don't have them on hand and then you order and you wait 2 or 3 days and you get past your main symptoms, or you get past the main inoculation period, then you've kind of lost your chance to kind of deal with it. So I would much rather have this stuff on hand and then be able to have a very, very short duration of symptoms than have to, suffer through 5-7 days of just feeling like crap. So, if you're new to this information, make sure you're following us everywhere. Make sure you're subscribed to our newsletter, which if you're in the superhuman community, you definitely are already. But there will be a little subscribe link at the bottom of this post. And then also, remember, as a superhuman, we have the application coming out really soon, which we're super excited about. It's going to help everybody stay on track. It's got a social media component. We'll have a little tutorial video that'll go along with it. Super, super excited about that. And I think that's about all I got. All right. I love you guys so much. I really do. This is all from the heart. Let me know if it's beneficial or not. Okay. Well, I know it's beneficial. Let me know how beneficial it is or what else you need. All right. Thank you so much.